everybody. It's the Lehocky Eagles postgame show on a Christmas day. Merry Christmas to all out there. You got a present. You got to win, right? It's not, not one like there was coal in your stocking. You got to win today for the Eagles, and they move on with 2 regular season games left. One against the Arizona Cardinals next week, where Seth's favorite defensive coordinator comes in, and then finally the New York Giants on the road. Neither game I expect the Eagles will lose, but let's bring in the man who covers the Eagles for JAKIB Media. John McMullen joins us, and John, are they any closer to playoff reliability from what they did in this game, in your opinion?
No, this is what I feared from this game. I thought, nothing was going to come of this game. If they won, handily over Tommy DeVito, that's what they were supposed to do. If it were close, they're not playing well. God forbid if they lost. There wasn't much good other than the good that came out of it. They're in position to get the number 2 seed again, or in at least a solid position. You mentioned the schedule down the stretch, the final 2 games, bad Arizona team, bad New York Giants team again. They should be able to finish this out with 3 consecutive wins overall. Then you might have to hope the Dallas Cowboys, the rare instance of Eagles fans rooting for the Cowboys, maybe beating the Detroit Lions. But if they get to that number 2 seed, I think you're in a position to where you want to be, because I think you can beat anybody coming in the Lincoln Financial Field. Then you roll the dice against San Francisco, projected to be in the NFC Championship game. And look, that's a tough spot, but that's the best you can hope for probably at this point. And yet they got out of it with a win. Impressive statistically, not as impressive style points. So kind of where they were during the 10-1 start, but it's better than losing. That's kind of how I look at it.
What about the mood in the locker room, John? Because we've been going back and forth on this. I mean, we talked about it at halftime. We talked about it on the pregame show. They won. They beat the Giants. How impressed are the Eagles with themselves after beating a Giants in this manner on their way to obviously another playoff appearance?
Well, they were happy. They were relieved. I think relief is the better indication. Yeah. I mean, look, the Giants have a lot of good players. It's an NFL team. I talk about it all the time. Saquon Barkley's out there. Dexter Lawrence is out there. Bobby Okereke's out there. They have a lot of good players. And I think, and I mentioned it at halftime, I think they were doing a disservice to those guys by playing Tommy DeVito. They finally benched him at halftime, and they got some juice when Tyrod Taylor came in, who started like 53 games in the NFL. He's a credible backup quarterback, and he showed that. He was able to make some plays and got the Giants back in the game. Desperation heat to try to tie it with a 2-point conversion. So it got a little bit ugly. But I think if you look defensively, no Nick Morrow, no Zach Cunningham, you're playing Shaq Leonard as your main linebacker. You just got here on December 3rd or 4th. Ben Van Sumer, an undrafted rookie. They're playing Nolan Smith at Mike linebacker in the dime. Nolan Smith, an edge rusher, tremendously athletic edge rusher, but he's playing Mike linebacker in the dime because he had to. James Bradbury, they unveiled, this is Matt Patricia, it's sort of a small dime look where they had 2 rookies playing outside, Kaylee Ringo, Eli Ricks, Bradley Roby, James Bradbury playing inside. They had the 3 safety look. Reed Blankenship was the guy with the green dot the entire game. So they persevered and were able to hold on. But I don't think, even if you win 40-3, if they keep playing DeVito, I don't think it changes much. I don't think the needle moves much unless, other than you now put yourself in a position because of Dallas's recent struggles to be where you want to be at this stage. And that part of it's a positive.
John, you know me, man. I don't disrespect anybody who's playing in the NFL. They've got some good players over there on the Giants. The Eagles gave them 103 yards worth of offense in the first half. That's what the Eagles held them to, 103 yards worth of offense in the first half. They've got some good individual players, but I'm not buying that, they got good enough players for the Eagles to only walk away from this game winning by 5. The Eagles made way too many mistakes. They look like the same team that they've looked like all year long, and me as an analyst first, okay, I've got to be truthful. And then me as a fan, not only am I going to be truthful to myself because I want them to win, but I'm also going to be truthful to, those people who listen to my, me analyze things, that's just, I can't get with that notion that, the Giants got good players. And that's the reason why, they don't look like they know what they want to be or what they want to do. They don't. When they have something, when they have success and they're doing something well, they're the only team that I watch that when they have success, they refuse to go back to those things that they've had success with and force the other team to stop them. Okay. And then along the way, they make these mistakes that really kind of make you scratch your head and wonder, like, okay, are you not focused? Are you not like locked in? How do you make this type of mistake? Okay. This late in the year. You can't do that and then turn around and tell me that the Giants are good enough to play this team to within 5 points. This team is not good enough to even as bad as the Eagles defense is, as bad as the secondary is, that team's not good enough to put 25 points on the Eagles, man. They're just not. I'm frustrated with this team, and I'm not gonna sit back and say, I'm not gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, because at the beginning of the year, everybody was like, oh, Super Bowl or bust, Super Bowl or bust, okay? And we've been waiting for this team to find itself all year long. We even gave them a pass when they were 11-1. Oh, they're at least they're winning. They're finding ways to win. But now, they've gone through the gauntlet. They came through 3-3, and they played two teams in back-to-back weeks that they absolutely should have demolished. And they lost one, and they damn near lost this one. And I'm scared to death with Jonathan Gannon coming in here next week, blitzing like he ain't got no sense. Okay, something that he.
I don't know if you have to worry about that, but JJ's looking a lot better these days. I will say that.
John, I'm worried about it because I'm gonna give you 2 reasons why I'm worried about the Cardinals. Okay, the first one, on the defensive side of the ball, we are one of the most undisciplined pass rushers in the National Football League. Okay, we let guys get out. We get up above the quarterback. We don't. Our lane discipline is bad, and a guy like Kyler Murray will make you look silly if you let him get outside of the pocket. That's the first thing. The second thing is, teams have figured out the way that you handle Jalen Hurts is that you blitz him. You blitz him because they refuse to sight adjust. You blitz him and you put him under duress. And Jonathan Gannon is down in Arizona blitzing like Buddy Ryan right now. Are you kidding me? I'm watching it, John.
Well, he definitely has changed. So I want people to look at Arizona last week, because I've been saying this for 2 years now. The reason they play the defensive scheme they play is because of the head coach. I was shocked when JG got here, because he learned sort of first under Mike Zimmer, so I was expecting some A-gap stuff, a lot of blitzes, a lot of looks that Mike used to do. Then it was Matt Eberflus in Indianapolis with some cover 2, and I thought, well, maybe he'll morph those 2. And then he showed up here and he's playing Vic Fangio's scheme. It did make a lot of sense to me. Now it does. So yeah, he's changed a little bit in Arizona. And he's taken the Nick Sirianni route as far as being a CEO coach. So, unlike Philadelphia, he's well regarded out there. I just don't think he's ready to compete at this stage. But yeah, you always got to be worried about Kyler Murray because he can be one of those guys that kills you with off schedule stuff. When I see what Jalen Hurts, I get it. They're not a conventional blitz beater team, hot route team. That's not how they go about it. I don't necessarily agree with it either. But, they are what they are. They're an RPO team. I talk all the time, you can fire the bubble screen off into the sun. I wouldn't miss it at all. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of it, but it's what they run. They don't run a Shanahan offense. They don't run. That all comes from the Mike Shanahan tree. So, whether it's Sean McVay or Zach Taylor or Kevin O'Connell or Kyle himself, those heavy play action teams that do things more traditionally. Mike McDaniel, Miami, everybody loves because he's running boomerang motion. Well, they're not going to do that because they're an RPO based team. They don't do that. Are they effective? Look, they got a ton of yards today, a ton of yards. So we talk about statistics all the time. Their statistics top 10 offense through the struggle be one after tonight because they piled up 465 yards of offense. The problem tonight was Dallas Goedert slips on a route, turns into a pick six. Olamide Zaccheaus friendly fire. You ever see a friendly fire force fumble? Yeah, they happen occasionally. Not like that. And all of a sudden they have a short field, they score. And then you had the one big play where Reed sort of lost Darius Slayton. And that certainly you could put that on the secondary. So it wasn't like the Giants were moving the football consistently. And that's not an excuse. It's saying, it's the first thing Nick Sirianni said today when he was talking about the game. It's nice to correct these things, but we got to stop making these mistakes. Those are big mistakes. You're talking about, I think it was a 76-yard pick six because the receiver fell. You're talking about a 69-yard pass. You're talking about a short field because you're fumbling the kickoff return. How do you win that game? How do you win a game like that? Well, you win a game like that because you dominated the rest of the game. So I think people got to be fair. Are those things egregious? Yes. But for the other 50 minutes, they dominated the football game. And they did what they were supposed to do. But, people open up the box score and look at the final score and saying, what are the New York Giants doing? And by the way, if they started Tyrod Taylor, maybe they win this game if those same things happen. But they didn't. So I think you could look at it both ways.
John, I was just looking at the playoff picture. If the Eagles went out, they get the 2 seed. There's still a matter of the Lions having to win one more game. If the Eagles lose, then the Lions will get that spot. So we're talking either the 2 or 3, and most likely it's the 2. Right now, they would play the 7 seed Seahawks, and the Rams would be the 6 seed, would play the Lions. Of course, they get flipped depending on what the Eagles do. But when we look at those 2 matchups, could they lose one of those games? Could they lose a first-round game to the Seahawks or the Rams, in your opinion, right now?
Well, they just lost to the Seahawks with a backup quarterback. But, remember, in that theory, obviously the game's going to be at Lincoln Financial Field. I would say the far scarier of those 2 games would be the Rams because you have Matthew Stafford, who's, a great quarterback, whether people realize it or not. And you have Cooper Kupp and you have Puka Nacua having a tremendous year as a rookie. And they found a good running back in the Notre Dame kid, Kyron Williams. So they've got it all again offensively. So they're a far more dangerous team, I would say, than Seattle. That would be the team I'm more concerned about. But if you lose either of those 2 games at Lincoln Financial Field, well, not going anywhere anyway. That's how I look at it. I mean, ultimately, they have the inside track. They had the hiccup. They have the inside track to that number 2 seed. and they should be able to handle business here. And then you who knows when you arrive in San Francisco, how are the 49ers playing? They got a tough game tonight. Who's healthy? Who's not healthy? Maybe the Eagles get healthier. That's why, look, when they play the playoffs, Darius Slay is going to be back out there. Avonte Maddox is going to be back out there. Nick Morrow is going to be back. Zach Cunningham's going to be back. You know, those are significant differences on defense. Offensively, they definitely have to clean things up. But if I'm talking about Jalen Hurts, I'll tell you guys, the thing that disturbed me most about Jalen Hurts today, the numbers were fine. I don't blame the pick six on him. He is back to immediately flushing right or left instead of climbing the pocket. So the minute he feels pressure, he's flushing outside. And, you know, a couple coaches have told me the minute you flush, it plays over. You flushed it. Instead of climbing the pocket. Now he's able to do some different things. And you saw it. It was ironic because they started the run the ball chant like 14:50 in the fourth quarter. And then they're 3rd and 20. We can't run the stinking ball at 3rd and 20. And that's your classic Jalen Hurts off schedule, unbelievable play that really maybe won the game because ultimately they convert that 3rd and 20. They finish the drive. They score. Remember, that was directly after the pick six. Momentum. You're thinking 3rd and 20. The Giants are getting the football back. And he makes that play. But I would say overall, he's flushing too much, and he's feeling sometimes the pressure's not even there, and he's not climbing the pocket, and he needs to get back. That was one of the areas he improved greatly on last season, and I think he's starting to fall into some bad habits there.
No, I would agree with you. And we've talked a lot about him going through his progressions, or trying to at least, him locking on receivers and escaping the pocket is something that he seems to be relying on a lot more. But you're right, that 3rd and 20 play was absolutely insane to A.J. Brown. I want to go back to something you were saying earlier about the defense, and it's a great point when you do have to consider injuries. You can't use them as an excuse, but they don't have players defensively right now that are better than the players that are unfortunately not playing because of injury right now. So I want to ask you about the scheme of a guy like Matt Patricia. What has really jumped out to you that is a lot different, if anything, between what Sean Desai was calling and what you're seeing right now with Matt Patricia as the defensive play caller?
Well, and it's hard to tell because they do have so many key players out. But and part of the reason why it impresses me is because they have key, but he's willing to try a bunch of different curveballs. Like I saw Nolan Smith and Mike linebacker. I had to double. It was like, look, am I seeing this right? I had to call everybody in, and I'm like, where'd that come from? So that's some open-mindedness to throw an athlete out there and maybe gets in front of something in zone coverage. Who knows what happens? So you're trying to throw curveballs. I mentioned the different dime looks. Obviously, they're playing so much dime because they don't have any linebackers. But Shaq Leonard, talked to Nick Morrow this week when he was saying he might try to give it a go with the abdomen issue. And he said if he couldn't, Shaq would have the green dot. And he didn't. Reed Blankenship did. So he went about that in a different way. So that's one of the things about Matt Patricia I've been impressed so far, his willingness to try different things. Sean would do some of that as well, at least when compared to Jonathan Gannon, but he didn't seem to have the confidence to pull it off, the effectiveness. He was more putting guys in there and trying to mask their deficiencies, which in theory you should do. But at this stage of the game, if Ben Van Sumeren is the best linebacker you got, he's got to go out there and play. And that's sort of, I think Matt Patricia said, all right, this is it. This is what you guys are. Go out there and play. And I think that's been pretty impressive.
John, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Of course, John McMullen is brought to us by Jaguar Land Rover of Willow Grove. Go test drive the new Defender. You'll absolutely love it. Thanks, John. We will talk to you as this regular season limps to a finish, and we'll take inventory of it in the last 2 games. Talk to you next week, bud.
It's JG week. Get fired up.
It's a set week.
I'm starting to like JG.
Thanks, guys.
Seth, said you're going to have a homecoming party for him?
No, he don't like me. He don't like me. You know what I wanted to ask John before, we let him go. I'll throw it to you guys. Talk to me about Nick Sirianni's decision making tonight. That 4th down where they decided 3rd and 1 rather, where they decided to turn around and hand the ball off to DeAndre Swift in the backfield, and he got stuffed for a 2 or 3 yard loss. Why in the hell didn't they go tush push there?
Yeah, good question. He's not covering himself in glory right now. I got to be honest with you. We're going to come back. We got game balls we got to figure out. So during the break, come up with a game ball. Good game balls. The Lehocky Eagles postgame show continues right here on the JAKIB Media, YouTube, and 6abc.com. Back at it.